Chapter 891. To rise to power. As Su Ming looked at the three dragon heads roaring from the swamp in Blackwater City through the screen of light, Su Ming sucked in a deep breath, because he had just been given very shocking information in regards to Lai Shan family's strength. Su Ming remained silent for a while, then he looked at Elder Feng. It doesn't matter whether it's runes or the stone dragons, even the great bright light rune is not that shocking once I think about it logically, and it's the same for the nine-headed dragon forming a promise with all of you. But how did you manage to divide the members of the Tai Ci family and make them betray their own family at such a crucial moment? Black Ink Dao did not exist on Black Ink Planet in the past. When we came, Black Ink Dao was born. Our followers are in every single one of the families here. We are the kings that lie in the shadows, and we can decide the rise and fall of each family. We can stir up internal strife within the Black Ink Planet and can bring about a disaster that will shock the four great true worlds, such as the change in Black Ink Planet in the past. Elder Feng smiled as he said the words that left Su Ming's heart in shock once again. If he looked at the timeline, the time when the change in Black Ink Planet occurred was also the time when Lai Xianxia arrived in the barren lands of divine essence. As for us being able to turn the members of these families into berserkers so they would betray their own family when we needed them to, well, you might be able to guess the reason behind it. Elder Feng cast Su Ming a glance. He did not reveal everything, but instead let the ghost of a smile linger on his lips. Su Ming remained silent for some time before he said in a low voice, "That is a divine ability the second god of berserkers created on his own. When I left with the first god of berserkers, I saw three people who had the qualities to take over the first god of berserkers' position. I don't know whether the second god of berserkers you speak of is one of them. If he is, then good for him, but if he isn't, it doesn't matter either. However, the great art of heartless berserker seed was not created by the second god of berserkers, like what you're claiming. Instead, it is the art the first god of berserkers used to enslave the worlds, and it is also known as the god of berserkers art. In this universe, only Lord Lai Shan alone could create this art with his unprecedented talent," Elder Feng said in a languid manner while shaking his head. As they spoke to each other, the weather changed above Blackwater City. Booming sounds shook the sky and earth, and there was the sound of space shattering as the three heads from the nine-headed dragon fought against the three old men in Solar Kalpa realm. This was the first nine-headed dragon Su Ming had seen. Its might was incredibly astonishing, and in fact, Su Ming believed that if the Candle Dragon had met this nine-headed dragon at its prime and they had fought against each other since they were mortal enemies, it would be difficult to determine just who would win or lose. However, Su Ming had a feeling that this nine-headed dragon seemed to be slightly stronger than the Candle Dragon. It has 9 heads. Right now, only 3 of them have appeared, and it can already fight on equal grounds against 3 cultivators in Solar Kalpa realm. If all 9 heads appeared together, then even if it had not reached the state of being a master of fate, lives, and death, it would still be powerful enough to be the strongest being among all those below the master of fate, lives, and death. Booming sounds came through the screen of light and echoed in Lai Shan family's auction hall. Su Ming looked at the city, then said calmly after some time, "No wonder you weren't worried about the Tai Ci family relocating members of their family to where Lai Shan family's base is located. If you have so much firepower hidden in Blackwater City, then you will have even more forces hidden in the family's base." Elder Feng lifted his right hand and swung it before himself. The air in front of the screen of light distorted, and nearly 100 screens of light in various sizes appeared. Each one showed a different scene, and they all were the bases that belonged to the families in Black Ink Planet. If you're curious, then you can take a look. You'll know when you see it, Elder Feng said with a smile. Su Ming swept his gaze over the near 100 screens of light and fell silent. He saw long arcs which were members of the Tai Ci family heading to seek help from the families in Black Ink Planet. One of the light screens showed the Chen family, a middle-tier family in Black Ink Planet. A long arc arrived before them with loud whistling sounds. It descended in the span of a breath, revealing itself as a middle-aged man. He was dressed in a hanfu and had an anxious expression on his face. Once he descended, he immediately wrapped his fist in his palm and bowed towards the Chen family in a greeting. "I am Tai Ci and of the Tai Ci family. With the letter from my family's progenitor, I have come in hopes to meet Chen family's progenitor. This concerns a drastic change in all the families within Black Ink Planet. Chen family's progenitor, Please allow me to have an audience with you. Kill him. Almost at the instant the middle-aged man finished speaking, an ancient voice came from the Chen family. Once it spoke, several dozen people charged out from inside the building. The middle-aged man's expression changed. He wanted to retreat, but there was quite a number of powerful warriors whose levels of cultivation were higher than his. When they attacked, they did not give a single chance for him to fight back, as if they could not wait to immediately kill him since there was someone watching their actions, and the Chen family were eager to show their sincerity. Everything lasted for only 10 breaths before a shrill scream of pain reverberated in the air. The middle-aged man from the Tai Ci family who had come to seek help had both his form and his spirit destroyed. It was also during this moment that an incredibly tall and built man with a flower-patterned mask over his face walked out from the Chen family. Accompanying him was Chen family's progenitor, who was standing right behind him as many other powerful warriors from the Chen family trailed behind them. Sir, you don't have to worry. The Chen family has long since found the Tai Ci family unpleasant to our eyes. Even if you did not come today, we would have killed that person from the Tai Ci family. Chen family's progenitor wrapped his fist in his palm respectfully. The man nodded and took a step forward before he turned into a long arc and left. Once he disappeared, Chen family's progenitor wiped off the cold sweat on his forehead. Su Ming saw this in the screen of light. In fact, he could see something similar in all the screens of light in front of his eyes. All the members of the Tai Ci family who were sent out had been swiftly killed by the anxious families. However, there were some who did not die, and those were the people who went to the Mo family in Black Kirin City and the Hua family in Worldly Star family. These two families, who were part of the strongest trio of families in Black Ink Planet, did not kill the people who came to seek their help, but instead chose to shut their doors and refuse to see them. As for the members of the Tai Ci family who were heading to Lai Shan family's base, Su Ming saw a gigantic tentacle suddenly extending from a layer of clouds in the space before the thousands of cultivators who were charging forward. There were plenty of polyps on that tentacle, and as it swept through the sky, it looked as if it had pushed the planet to make it rotate on its axis. The sea of clouds then tumbled about to reveal a huge creature that was 100,000 feet big. It was clearly a big octopus. With the clouds serving as the ocean, it swam around in the sky. At that moment, it appeared with an unknown method and executed a brutal slaughter of the thousands of cultivators from the Tai Ci family. In fact, when Su Ming looked closer into it, he saw an old man sitting cross-legged on the octopus head. The old man's face was indistinct and could not be seen clearly. However, there was a layer of moisture that seemed to be surrounding the old man, creating a hazy feeling. When sunlight shone on it, a 7-colored light was produced by the refracting light. That's the old rain berserker. Elder Feng smiled. Wind, rain, lightning, fog, the 4 generals under the first god of berserker's command. Su Ming remained silent. When he averted his gaze from the screens of light, he had already formed an estimation of Lai Shan family's might in Black Ink Planet. It was as Elder Feng had said, with this sort of power, they were the Shadow Kings of Black Ink Planet. Their methods might be a little despicable and not something ethical, but since Lai Shan family had chosen to be the kings of Black Ink Planet lurking in the shadows, those that exist in the dark naturally cannot choose to do things in an honorable manner. Su Ming acknowledged this, because he knew that the brighter a ball of flames burned in the dark, the more a person's attention would be attracted to it. Then, the one that would be first extinguished would be that ball of flames burning in the dark, which all the people could see. The one that would last would instead be the existence that stayed hidden in the dark, having fused together with it. This would make it so it would never be destroyed but would turn into an existence that destroyed others. This was the path Lai Xianxia had chosen when he came to Black Ink Planet. It was also precisely because of this that he managed to make Black Ink Dao into a force that could overturn the entire Black Ink Planet after tens of thousands of years of administration. This was a power that belonged to the Berserkers. The Lord God of Berserkers once said that he is a Berserker, and we are also Berserkers. Then, everything that we do, no matter how despicable and how vile, is for the sake of Berserkers existing in the entire universe. It isn't easy for a race to rise to power. Originally, the Lord God of Berserkers had thought that the Berserkers had already risen to power and he had been prepared to change the rulers of True Morning Dao World so that he could turn True Morning Dao World into the Berserkers' true world. But the ancient will from Yin Death region had been easily able to destroy everything the God of Berserkers had done with just a flip of its hand, forcing him to obey its ancient will and leave the land of berserkers to help Yin Death Region search for their entrance. Did you think that we did not want to leave behind some semblance of hope or some treasures for the berserkers before we left? That we wanted to watch them gradually fall to ruin? Did you think that we truly left to search for some turning point that would allow us to reach a breakthrough? Did you really think that we did it for ourselves? Did you think that the stone monument heritage Lord Lai Shan left behind talking about how it would all end when it came to the third generation was a show of how carefree he had been and how he truly did not care about the berserkers' rise and fall? Elder Feng asked softly, but the impact that came with his words touched Su Ming's heart. I don't know why you left Yin Death Region, but I can guess that you were forced to leave as well. After all, Yin Death Region had threatened to kill all the berserkers in the past, forcing our Lord God of Berserkers Lai Xianxia to leave our homeland and find the entrance to the fifth true world for Yin Death Region's will. If he did not obey them, then all the berserkers would have been destroyed. He could only obey them in humiliation and bury all his hatred and madness in his heart as he chose to leave. Then, to make Yin Death Regions will not worry about him, he had to harden his heart and make a clean break with the berserkers. When Elder Feng said these words, his expression became twisted, and a hint of madness as well as hatred appeared in his eyes. We spent every single moment over the course of tens of thousands of years longing for our home. We think about our people. We think about all of you. All the buildings of Lai Shan family map the land of berserkers. You can't see our grief when we look at the map of the land of berserkers. You can't see the pain we feel in our hearts when we remember our homeland. Over the tens of thousands of years, we have worked tirelessly. We gave up on our pride, gave up on being honorable and hid ourselves in the dark just so that there would come a day when we could fight our way back to Yin Death Region and kill all the wills in Yin Death Region so that the berserkers could move out and become the strongest race in the entire universe. Elder Feng's words were like a windstorm that crashed into Su Ming's heart with a bang. Chapter 892. Our Berserkers. We have been waiting constantly for other berserkers to walk out of Yin Death Region and come to this place. We have been waiting for you all along. Lord Lai Xianxia was known as Yin Death's child by Yin Death Region's will, and he believed that after him, there would be a second, a third, and even more Yin Death's children who would appear. He waited for all this while, and we have been waiting alongside him for people from our homeland to come to the barren lands of divine essence. That's why we controlled Black Ink Planet and brought about the change in it. This was a signal for you. We were waiting for you. We wanted to create a berserker's world beyond Yin Death Region. This place belongs to us, but we are already old. This is a world created for you by the first god of berserkers, Lai Xianxia. Everything in this place was prepared for you. Elder Feng looked at Su Ming attentively. His face was filled with sincerity, and there was not a hint of him putting up an act. As he said these words, booming sounds rang out once again from the image of Blackwater City in the screen of light. The noise was really loud, like thunder booming, and it was roaring endlessly in the city. It was the sound that came from the fight between the nine-headed dragon's 3 heads and the 3 progenitors in Solar Kalpa realm. A cold harumph abruptly came from the sky and shook the entire place. As that cold harumph rang in the air, the sky was dyed instantly in a dark green shade. Within it was a gigantic mountain descending slowly from the sky. The mountain was several hundreds of thousands of feet big, and it looked like there was no end to it. As it descended, the entire Blackwater City shuddered and all the cultivators who were fighting immediately fell backwards. The 9-headed dragon's 3 heads and the 3 progenitors in Solar Kalpa realm trembled and swiftly moved back. It was as if the giant mountain exuded a supreme mighty pressure because of which all forms of thought were forced to freeze and all the people to kowtow to it. Greetings, progenitor Tai Ci. I, member of the younger generation, greet progenitor Tai Ci. Roars filled with excitement came from the mouths of all the members who had not betrayed the Tai Ci family. An endless amount of hope seeped through their excited voices, along with an unshakable belief that all disasters would be resolved now that their progenitor appeared. As the mountain descended, Su Ming could see a gigantic face on it in the screen of light. The face protruded out of the mountain, and he could vaguely see that it belonged to an old man. That face was filled with dignity, making it seem that if he became angry, he could make the entire universe roar with him. Elder Feng looked at the screen of light and asked calmly, "Do you know what is the requirement to become the strongest family in Black Ink Planet?" "It's a master of fate, lives, and death. A family must have someone who has already become a master of fate, lives, and death to become the strongest family here. Only then can they become a force of power that can intimidate the forces from the 4 great true worlds stationed here, and only then can they trade with Divine Essence Star Ocean and the 4 great true worlds in Black Ink Planet." Elder Feng's voice echoed in Su Ming's ears. He looked at the gigantic face on the mountain through the screen of light. A familiar wave of pressure made him suck in a deep breath. This familiarity did not come from having seen progenitor Tai Ci before, but from having been chased down by someone of the same level of cultivation in the past. "That's enough." When the mountain descended, an old voice reverberated through the world with a bang. That voice contained a will that would allow no forms of resistance, as if it was the god in this world. "Shadow Kings of Black Ink Planet, Tai Ci family has never offended you, and neither have you done the same to us. Let this be over. Leave Blackwater City. As for the members who have betrayed us, you can take them with you as well. This is the last straw. Do not force me to fight all of you to the death. I can sense that you do not have a master of fate, lives, and death in Black Ink Planet." The voice filled with an ancient air reverberated in all directions. Endless ripples rose in the air and spread outwards to sweep up a large amount of dark green clouds, so the entire sky looked like it had turned into a huge ocean that had waves raging on its surface. "Sometimes, we will give some powerful warriors the respect they deserve, such as telling them why they lost." As Elder Feng smiled and spoke to Su Ming, he took a step forward and moved into the screen of light and vanished into thin air. He did not ask Su Ming to go with him after all. Not everyone has the bravery to face off a powerful master of fate, lives, and death. Su Ming watched Elder Feng disappear, then a faint smile appeared on his face and he took a step forward as well and disappeared into the screen of light. Elder Feng walked out of the air in the sky above Blackwater City. As he stood there, the gaze of the gigantic face on the mountain swiveled towards him. That one gaze contained a power that could make the sky and earth tremble, and a mighty pressure descended swiftly on Elder Feng's body. It was also during this moment that Su Ming appeared beside him. His appearance immediately brought the mighty pressure from progenitor Tai Ci to descend on him as well. This was not the first time that Su Ming faced off against this sort of pressure. He stood there with brightly shining eyes, but he did not move even a single step backwards. "You are afraid." Elder Feng's expression was calm as ever under the mighty pressure coming from progenitor Tai Ci, and he spoke coolly. His words were not aimed at Su Ming, but were directed towards progenitor Tai Ci. "You are afraid of the legendary Shadow Kings in Black Ink Planet and the true might of Black Ink Dao. You are afraid of why Black Ink Dao would dare to provoke Tai Ci family even though you cannot sense someone who is of the same level as you and would even fight till the last of us falls. You also became wary the instant I appeared, because you do not know why I dared show up before you even though my level of cultivation is not as great as yours. You are also uncertain as to why I dare say such words to you." Elder Feng's voice echoed in the air, and the pupils on that gigantic face on the mountain shrank. "Su Ming." Elder Feng turned his head around to look at his companion. Su Ming looked over. Becoming the master of fate, lives, and death is the peak to the eyes of the people in the world. Theirs is a will that is equivalent to the might of heaven that no one can fight against. It is the limit of the path of Tao, and there are very few people in the world who can kill those who have reached this realm. In fact, some truly terrifying poisons can even be disregarded by masters of fate, lives, and death. In fact, it can even be said that poisons that can be fatal to masters of fate, lives, and death no longer exist in this world, even though they might have existed in the ancient past. That is unless you've schemed against that person for tens of thousands of years and placed poison into the spirit stones he uses to practice his cultivation every day, into the spiritual aura he breathes in every day, into the air he gets in touch with every day, and even on all his clothes and everything else that he gets in contact with during the tens of thousands of years he is alive. As he comes into contact with that poison every day for tens of thousands of years, that poison will become a part of him, and only then can a master of fate, lives, and death's body and soul be destroyed after tens of thousands of years. Elder Feng smiled. Should we have used this sort of poison before this person became a master of fate, lives, and death as well? In fact, should we have used it when he had just been born so that the plan would be even more perfect as his level of cultivation rose through the passage of time? Su Ming asked calmly. Praise immediately appeared in Elder Feng's eyes. He looked at Su Ming and nodded. That's right. Tai Ci family became the strongest family under our control from the shadows. Your progenitor Tai Ci Shaw had disappeared a long time ago, and his life plate had shattered tens of thousands of years ago. You might have hidden this very well, but his death was part of Lai Shan family's plan, so there is no way we would not know about this. Tai Chi Shan, you have great potential, but from the moment you were born, everything you came in contact with was due to Lai Shan family's arrangements. There is not a single thing that you came in contact with that did not contain poison. We know all about Tai Ci family's strengths and know that you have the legacy of the shamanic Tao in you. Your family has the qualities to be awakened in your blood, and because of it, you will always have a master of fate, lives, and death among you. Tai Ci Shaw's death only meant that another master of fate, lives, and death would appear in Tai Ci family. All the people in your generation who could obtain the legacy died one after another, until only you remained. When you obtained the legacy and became a master of fate, lives, and death, everything that you came into contact was filled with poison. The dimensional crack you discovered in the past was something we let you discover. The color of your controlled world is dark green. Have you never suspected it? That color is filled with depression, along with death. You discovered it. That was why you tried to fuse with this origin mountain of great kindness 10,000 years ago in an attempt to get rid of the poison that had fused into your soul by using the mountain as your body. But this mountain was something our Lord Lai Shan Shou intentionally allowed you to discover in Divine Essence Star Ocean. When Elder Feng said these words, his expression turned ghastly, and he looked at the gigantic mountain coldly. Su Ming stood by the side with his heart in great shock. A sudden wave of curiosity rose within him towards Lai Shan Shou, a man who could plot against masters of fate, lives, and death, could control the entire Black Ink planet, and could even affect a powerful family's rise and fall. This man called Lai Shan Shou. After a long while, the gigantic face on the mountain asked slowly, "What is the name of that poison?" He did not refute Elder Feng's words, and in fact, there was not a single change in his expression. Berserker Seed Number 4. This is the name our Lord Lai Shan Shou gave for the poison. It is also your new name. Lai Shan Shou. The gigantic face on the mountain slowly closed his eyes to cover the anguish and dullness within them. He had appeared so late instead of coming right at the start to prevent his family's destruction because he knew that he was no longer himself. He also knew that even if he chose to die, another sign would appear in the future within the Tai Ci family, and he or she would go down the same path. Let my family leave. After a long time, progenitor Tai Ci opened his eye. The anguish in his eyes had disappeared, replaced by a dull, lifeless look. Very well. In the future, a middle-tier family by the name of Tai Ci will appear in Black Ink Planet. Elder Feng smiled and nodded. All the members of the Tai Ci family who belong to Black Ink Dao will fuse into the Yu family. From now on, Blackwater City will belong to the Yu family. This is the gift we bestow onto you for what you have done for our God of Berserkers. Once Elder Feng finished saying these things, he turned his head around to look at Su Ming. Didn't you say you wanted to meet Lai Shan Shou? Come, I'll take you to him. I'll also let you see our Berserkers. Chapter 893, Number 1, Our Berserkers. Su Ming cast Elder Feng a glance and did not speak. He identified with those two words, but there was also a complicated feeling in him that he could not describe. This complicated feeling came from Tai Ci progenitor's new name. Berserker Seed Number 4. If there was a number 4, then while there might not be a number 5 and number 6, but there would definitely be a number 3, number 2, and a number 1. Who were they? With Lai Shan Shou's intelligence and methods, if he decided to scheme against me, then perhaps I am numbers 1, 2, or 3. Su Ming's expression remained calm and he did not reveal a single hint of his thoughts. All of this was just his guess, so while his thoughts might be correct, they could also be just him thinking too much. It was just like how a person might not have the intention to harm others, but they must maintain vigilant of those around them, because this was the world of cultivation. This was a world where the law of the jungle was the prime principle. It was a brutal era in which one wrong step would cause a person to be damned eternally. Elder Feng walked in the air with Su Ming by his side, the two of them moving forward leisurely. Yu Ru and the Duke of Crimson Flame with the yellow and black dogs followed behind them. As for Yu Chen Hai, he had already gone back to Yu family's base. More than half of the families in Black Ink Planet have been planted with the Berserker seed, and as they are unconsciously influenced by it, they no longer think of themselves as cultivators but accept being known as Berserkers, Elder Feng said leisurely. We've control about 8/10 of the trades conducted between Black Ink Planet and the world outside. We can limit the number of a particular item being sold, and with this, we control one of the lifelines of Divine Essence Star Ocean and the 4 great true worlds. But the fights to seize the market have never disappeared. Once in a while, a force from the outside will come here to snatch the resources in Black Ink Planet, such as this Tai Ci family. It is part of the shamanic Tao from the world outside which came to this place after traversing through many galaxies. However, from the shadows, we divided them, and even if their family members had not provoked you today, before long, we would have wiped them off. Elder Feng's voice echoed in the world as he brought Su Ming through mountains, rivers, and meadows. Didn't you notice that you didn't feel too much unfamiliarity when you came to Black Ink Planet? As Elder Feng moved forward, he turned his head around to smile at Su Ming. The rivers, meadows, and the terrain here. If you take a closer look, you will find that everything has been modified and changed into those of the world of the Berserkers that resides in our memories. When Elder Feng finished saying these things, he stopped speaking and chose instead to look quietly at Su Ming. Su Ming remained silent. He had noticed this before, but as they were now moving through the land, he had been able to sense something. It was just as Elder Feng had said, there were certain parts in the terrain here that gave him a sense of DJVU Inc. Kirin City lies a distance away. The rules within its family are incredibly strict, and they are also the family upon which we have the least control. They are an important alien race from Divine Essence Star Ocean that serve as the core of all the alien races here, and they have their own pride. As they traveled through the land, Su Ming saw plenty of different families. When Elder Feng spoke up, Su Ming looked over and saw a vast city built upon a foreign creature. It was a gigantic black Kirin. That Kirin stood on the ground with its head was tilted towards the sky. There was a yearning look on its face, as if it was looking at the star of its home. That black Kirin was several hundreds of thousands of feet big, and when Su Ming looked at it, he could see no end to the creature. A vast, mighty pressure spread out from it, and its strength seemed to be same as the one that belonged to a master of fate, lives, and death. Elder Feng did not bring Su Ming to Ink Kirin City, but instead they went past it. He brought Su Ming through almost the entire Black Ink Planet, and on their way they saw Worldly Star Planet as well. In the end, when the sky gradually darkened, he brought Su Ming to a mountain range. It looked like a dragon's spine, as if a dragon had curled up on the ground and was deep in sleep. The place was all dark. When Su Ming looked down from the sky, he could see a vague shadow of a person standing at the peak of the tallest mountain. That person was incredibly tall and well-built. As he stood there, he gave off a feeling that he was even taller than the mountain under his feet. It was as if wherever he went, everything would be centered around him. Even the portion of the world in this region seemed different from the other parts in the world. It gave a feeling as if it had sunken slightly, as if it was worshipping this man. Su Ming could only vaguely see that person's back. As he approached with Elder Feng, the large back slowly became clearer, and complicated emotions appeared on Su Ming's face. Because this was no longer a living person, but a stone statue. Lai Xianxia's stone statue. Elder Feng descended on the mountain and stopped beside the stone statue. Su Ming landed beside him quietly, not saying a single word when his gaze fell on the stone statue. After a long while, Elder Feng sighed and said calmly, "You were too late. This isn't a stone statue. 8,000 years ago, Lord Lai Shan stood here and looked at the sun setting and rising as if he was thinking about something. He stood here for 3 years, and his body turned into a stone statue. We don't know where his soul went, just that his life force disappeared without a trace. However, before his soul disappeared, Elder, you and I heard our Lord God of Berserkers' divine thought. He told us that he went to a place where he could decide the fate of berserkers. He might never come back from there, so we were told that if he didn't return within 10,000 years, then everything that he created would belong to the god of berserkers who would come here after him. If the god of berserkers who came to this place wanted to find him, then a competition between the gods of berserkers would occur. I don't really understand what the Lord God of berserkers meant, but I think you should be able. Elder Feng remained silent for a moment after saying this, then he cast a profound look at Su Ming and took a few steps backwards. He sat down cross-legged several thousand feet away and closed his eyes, speaking no more. Su Ming's expression remained as calm as before. No one could see his thoughts. When Elder Feng moved back, he lifted his head to look at the statue before him and walked over. When he stood in front of it, he saw how Xianxia looked like. His face was one filled with an ancient air and an awe-inspiring righteousness. The profound look in his eyes stood out starkly even after he had turned into a stone statue, and it gave off a feeling of sadness. When Su Ming looked at the statue, he could sense that grief. Xianxia was looking at the sky in this manner while thinking about something. Su Ming looked at the statue. This image was the one that fit with the image of what he thought of Xianxia in his heart, not the person who had used all those despicable means and used berserker seeds with a sinister air about him. After a long while, Su Ming mumbled to himself, saying words that only he could hear. Is he giving me the power to choose? The words Xianxia left behind were not complicated but very straightforward. Elder Feng had lied when he said he did not understand his words. He had simply not wanted to understand them since he was not the one who could make the decision. This was a path that could only be chosen by the one who had the right to make this decision. The only people who had the right to walk down this path were the gods of berserkers. It did not matter whether it was the first, the second, the third, or the fourth. As long as they had been acknowledged by the land of berserkers and won over the berserkers' hearts, they had the right to walk down this path. Time trickled by as Su Ming continued looking at Xianxia's statue until the night passed. When the sky grew bright once again, Su Ming lifted his head to look at the sky while standing by the statue. His action was the exact same as that of Xianxia. He might not be as tall and built as the other, but as he stood there, he looked as if he was stepping on top of the world. He looked at the sky quietly. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Another person silently arrived to the mountain range. He was a person Su Ming had seen before on the screen of light, the old man sitting on the gigantic octopus. He was the reign general of the 4 generals of wind, rain, lightning, and fog. His old appearance was incredibly similar to Feng Li's. He arrived quietly and silently sat down beside Elder Feng. The two of them did not speak, just sat there as if they were waiting for Su Ming to make his choice. Time passed, and even more people appeared behind them. These people were all old men and were all respectable personas in the Lishan family. They seldom ventured out on normal occasions, but now, they had all come to this place and were looking at Su Ming's back with complicated expressions on their faces. In the end, they chose to sit down and wait for him. Half a month later, nearly 100 people arrived and fixed their gazes on Su Ming's body. However, he could no longer sense it. He looked at the sky as he pondered about what Xianxia had seen in the past. Having watched the sky for half a month, Su Ming had seen a dozen-something cycles of the sun rising and setting, but he did not obtain his answer. When another half a month passed as he looked at the sky, he suddenly came to a realization while his mind was still in an absent-minded state. There was nothing in the sky. Xianxia had not been looking at the skyt, but was looking at himself, at his own heart. He was hesitating as he mulled over something. The competition between the gods of berserkers. Su Ming said softly. But I don't want to compete. He looked at the sky. If I don't want to compete and you still don't return in 2,000 years, then everything here will belong to me. Are you telling me that this is your choice? But why do I feel like everything about this is just an illusion? This isn't your real choice. In the end, you would choose to have me compete against you. Su Ming sighed. He slowly lowered his head and turned around to look at the nearly 100 berserkers who were thousands of feet behind him. He was looking at them, and they were also looking at him. Both parties were silent. Tell me, who is berserker seed number 3? Su Ming asked slowly. a prodigy of the previous generation from 20,000 years ago, who is a heaven stealer from divine essence star ocean. The person who answered Su Ming was Elder Feng. What about number 2? A cultivator from True Morning Tao world, who is among the forces of power from the 4 great true worlds keeping an eye over this place, Elder Yu said hoarsely. This was the first time he spoke, and wherever his voice traveled to, it would felt as if there was water vapor around there. Su Ming remained silent for a moment, then asked softly, "Who is number 1? The moment he said these words, Elder Feng and Elder Yu cast their gazes at him at the same time. However, since Su Ming was standing beside Xianxia's statue, their gazes also landed on it, but no one could tell if it was just a coincidence or not. Chapter 894. The back filled with anguish, Su Ming turned his head sideways to cast a glance at Xianxia's statue. Then, he sighed softly. He understood now, and it could even be said that he understood everything completely. This was Xianxia giving him. No, perhaps it would be more accurate to say that he was giving all the gods of berserkers who had come to this place from their homeland a choice that was not a choice. Su Ming was number 1, and Xianxia was also number 1. This was a competition between the gods of berserkers. The victor could obtain the legacies of all berserker seeds to obtain a form of supremacy in the level of cultivation and from there lead all the berserkers to rise to power. This competition might not seem brutal, since there was no fight in it, let alone a battle to the death, just a search. If Su Ming found Xianxia, then he would win. If he could not, then he would lose. As for the time limit, it was 10,000 years. However, 8,000 years had already passed since then, so there were only 2,000 years left. The first god of berserkers, Xianxia, hesitated in the past because of the brutality of this competition between the gods of berserkers, and it's not something he wants. That's why he gave a time limit of 10,000 years. If a god of berserkers from his homeland arrived during the 10,000 years, then that god of berserkers would have a chance to win in this choice that is not really a choice. However, if no god of berserkers arrived during the 10,000 years, then he would take the place of the berserkers in Yin Death region and bring upon a windstorm with which the berserkers would rise to power. Then what reason could it have made Xianxia believe that there would only be one god of berserkers from the land of berserkers? What reason could have pushed him to leave this path for his descendants? There is no reason for this, but he still did it. Su Ming closed his eyes, and the memory of the grief about Xianxia's statue appeared in his head. Perhaps there are plenty of answers hidden within that grief. Su Ming opened his eyes. He had already obtained his own answer. I will not compete against you, and neither will I search for you. I have my own path to take. Su Ming swung his arm and walked towards Elder Feng and the others. When he came over, the near 100 berserkers, including Elder Feng, stood up and looked at him with a complicated gaze. They were waiting for him to make his choice. Su Ming looked at these berserkers and at the old Elder Feng as well as Elder Yu. The moment he said that one word, his body suddenly froze, because he had suddenly thought of a possibility. This possibility made his words come to an abrupt halt. His pupils constricted before he turned around slowly to look at Xianxia's statue. Grief, hesitation, looking at the sky, contemplation, a choice that does not follow the conventions of logic. Are all of these truly that simple? The first god of berserkers, Xianxia, stood here in the past for 3 years. Berserker seed number 1. As the near 100 berserkers waited for Su Ming to make his choice, he once again looked at Xianxia's statue. He slowly walked towards it again and looked at it in rapt concentration. He saw hesitation, grief, and contemplation, but when these 3 emotions were fused together, his heart trembled, because what he saw then was that Xianxia's expression seemed to contain a faint hint of anguish that was hidden incredibly deeply within him. Su Ming remained silent as he stood beside Xianxia's statue once again. He lifted his head and looked towards the sky. As time trickled by, 7 days went past, and hesitation appeared on Su Ming's face. This hesitation was one he intentionally brought about on himself. He was recollecting all his memories and fusing all instances when he hesitated in the past before having that emotion reflect on his face. Another 10 days passed, and in the mid of that hesitation, grief appeared. Once that wave of sadness fused together with the hesitation, Su Ming's expression looked incredibly complicated. Another half a month went by. Besides hesitation and grief, a third emotion appeared on Su Ming's face. It was contemplation. Only at that moment did he lift his head. When he looked at the sky, his voice could be heard for the first time after he had remained silent for a little over a month. "Yu Ru, tell me, what is the first word that comes to your mind when you look at my face now?" When said that, Yu Ru, who had been accompanying him all this while silently standing by his side, quietly and elegantly looked at his face. After a moment, she said softly, "Anguish and conflict." Su Ming's heart trembled. His eyes might have played tricks with him previously, which was why he had asked Yu Ru to verify for him, and with it, that the hint of anguish he saw on Xianxia's face was not a figment of his imagination. There was an expression of internal struggle within that anguish, but this expression was incredibly easy to understand. It could be understood as Xianxia not wanting the competition between the gods of berserkers to occur, but he had to do so, which was why there was anguish and conflict within him. However, there could also be another explanation to this. Perhaps there was another form of truth hidden within that back filled with anguish, and it was what Xianxia had wanted to convey to him in a not-so-straightforward manner. Su Ming fell silent. As his pupils constricted, he made sure his expression remained the same when he lifted his head to look at the sky. "First god of berserkers Xianxia, what is it that you want to tell me? Let me see it." Su Ming continued looking at the sky as he allowed time to pass, allowed wind and rain to fall on him, and allowed the clouds in the sky to continue disappearing and reappearing ceaselessly as the world changed with the passage of time. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. The near 100 berserkers behind him had also discovered this strange aspect, especially Elder Feng and Elder Yu. The both of them cast a glance at each other, and their expressions turned incredibly solemn. Ever since the Duke of Crimson Flame had acknowledged Su Ming as his young master, he never let his side. At that moment, he stood by him, on guard against the people of Xianxia. He would not allow anyone to be of a threat to Su Ming. Yu Ru had always been an elegant person. Time continued passing, but she continued sitting quietly by the side as she looked at the sun rising and setting. As for the bald crane and the abyss dragon, the two of them had taken the forms of 2 big dogs. They had originally been lying about, but the bald crane had lost its patience and was able to convince the abyss dragon to run away with it a month ago. As of then, no one knew where they were, nor how the bald crane had managed to convince the dragon. In the blink of an eye, half a year passed as Su Ming continued standing beside Xianxia's statue in the mid of wind and rain. Even when the weather became cold and snow fell, he continued to stay unmoving, immersed in a state in which his mind was almost completely void of all thoughts as he looked at the sky and the clouds. When winter slowly passed and spring arrived to allow all manner of lives to come back to life, the clouds in the sky slowly increased in number, and Su Ming's body suddenly shuddered. He had been standing there for almost 10 months, and only at that moment did he tremble. As he did so, the berserkers behind him immediately cast their gazes on him. In fact, Elder Feng even lifted his head to look at the sky, but all he saw was clouds. There was nothing else besides that. Su Ming had his gaze trained on the sky. He could see clearly that at the instant the clouds in the sky intersected with each other, some changes occurred among them. It was as if they were trying to show something, but in the end, there was nothing. The shivers in his body gradually calmed down. He continued looking at the sky quietly, and time passed once again. In the blink of an eye, a little over a year passed, which meant that Su Ming had already stood beside Xianxia's statue on the mountain for 2 full years. During these 2 years, the Yu family became the master of Blackwater City and the strongest family in the planet, even though they had no masters of fate, lives, and death in the family. Even so, they still managed to become one of the 3 greatest families in the planet. During the course of these 2 years, Black Ink Planet organized plenty of auctions, and as people came and went, the planet bustled with activity. However, the area around Su Ming seemed to have been locked down since not a single person passed through during all that time. It was as if this place had turned into the forbidden grounds within Black Ink Planet. The 3rd year arrived, and it went by with spring, summer, autumn, and winter passing in sequence. When the sequence was over, it marked the 3rd year that Su Ming had stood on the mountain. On that day, Su Ming shuddered once again as the sun set. He moved with anguish and conflict on his face. He had been standing on the mountain and had never once blinked, just like what Xianxia had done. As of then, 3 full years had passed. He had not been able to see anything, but he had a feeling as if he had seen something. That feeling turned into the shivers when he closed his eyes. At the instant he closed his eyes, all the movements of the clouds rising and falling he had seen for the past 3 years appeared in his mind like fleeting smoke. He seemed to be seeing the same piece of sky in his head, but there were slight differences in terms of the changes in the clouds, and these slight differences were rapidly connected together in his head as they swiftly flashed through his memory. They formed 6 words. These 6 words had existed in the sky since the start, but 3 years were required to form them as the clouds in the sky continued changing. There was only one method to see these 6 words, and that was by watching the sky intently, just like what Su Ming had done. His stare had been focused intently on the clouds, branding all their changes into his mind. But only at the instant he closed his eyes would the words appear. Divine Essence Star Ocean, save me. Su Ming's heart trembled and he opened his eyes. Needless to say, what the 6 words said was a plea for help that was hidden behind Xianxia's back, which was filled with anguish and internal struggle. This plea for help was clearly something that no one else was supposed to know. In fact, it could be said that no one could not know about it, or else Xianxia would not have delivered his message in such a cryptic manner and spent 3 years to slowly change the clouds in the sky with his divine sense so the changes in the sky would form a message that would allow the person who lifted his head to look at the sky for 3 years to discover his cry for help. It was a distress call that came from 8,000 years ago. As Su Ming's heart trembled, he gained a new understanding towards the competition between the gods of berserkers Xianxia had mentioned. Before me, was there anyone else who came to this place and stood here for 3 years? Su Ming suddenly asked and turned around to look at Elder Feng and the near 100 berserkers behind him. No. Elder Feng shook his head. Prepare a map of Divine Essence Star Ocean for me. The more comprehensive it is, the better. Su Ming was silent for a moment after, then after a long while, he sighed softly and said, I cannot ignore the first god of berserkers' cry for help for no other reason than respect towards him for the glorious life he led. This isn't difficult. We have always had an incredibly detailed map of Divine Essence Star Ocean, but there are plenty of changes within that galaxy, so there are always differences in the maps regarding that galaxy once every few hundred years. Still, Black Ink Auction, which is an auction held by various families working together once every few hundred of years, will be held 1 month later. At that time, the alien races from Divine Essence Star Ocean will come, and they will have with them a map that is even more detailed and has the changes within Divine Essence Star Ocean that have occurred over the past hundreds of years. Elder Feng said in a low voice after he cast Su Ming a deep look. Black Ink Auction. Su Ming's eyes sparkled. Will the people from the forces of power keeping an eye over this place come here? Since the past, the forces of power from the 4 great true worlds have sent someone to attend Black Ink Auction, Elder Feng answered. If Xian family's forces could discover the details of my bounty, then could they find the list of those with incredibly great potential in the path of cultivation from the forces of power from the 4 great true worlds? Su Ming asked languidly. Chapter 895. Dao Kong. Elder Feng cast Su Ming a look, then turned his head around to look at Elder Yu, who was beside him. Very well. We will need about a month or so, Elder Yu said flatly. As he spoke, water vapor filled the air around him, bringing a haziness to the area around him. All members of Xian family, all of your manpower within Black Ink Planet will now come under the 4th god of Berserker's name. You will need to listen to my orders, Su Ming said calmly as he stood beside Xianxia's statue and swept his gaze over the crowd. When his words left his mouth, the acknowledgement he had from the land of berserkers in his soul and the power of worship of the berserkers in the land of berserkers spread out from his body. This was the dignity of the god of berserkers. It was an invisible power that could make all berserkers' chi tumble. The bodies of the near 100 berserkers trembled and they lowered their heads towards Su Ming. Elder Feng and Elder Yu remained silent for a moment, then wrapped their fists in their palms and bowed towards Su Ming. The voices of the people as they bowed together turned into one single voice that said, We greet the god of berserkers. 1 month swiftly passed. During it, Black Ink Planet was filled with a bustle of activity, since cultivators continuously arrived from the world outside. These people were mostly powerful warriors from sinful barren lands, and they had naturally come to Black Ink Planet for Black Ink Auction, which was only held once every couple hundred years. The Black Ink Auction was incredibly famous in the barren lands of Divine Essence. It was a large-scale auction in its truest sense, and every single time it was held, plenty of shocking treasures would appear. The alien races from Divine Essence Star Ocean would also send their people to the auction, and they would bring with them a large amount of strange items from the galaxy in exchange for necessities as well as treasures and cultivation methods that would only appear in the 4 Great True Worlds. The 4 Great True Worlds also placed an incredible amount of importance on Black Ink Planet's auction. Every single time it was held, plenty of true guards would come. In fact, there would even be representatives from each true world who would come to the planet to trade. Due to far too many cultivators arriving in the planet, preventing chaos became an incredibly great task. It would be taken by a group of guards formed by the powerful warriors from each family in the planet, and they made sure that no battles occurred during the auction. In fact, the protection rune in Black Ink Planet would also be fully activated during the entire process. Once any sign of disturbance appeared, the rune would immediately destroy the cause of the disturbance. Thankfully, the auction had been held plenty of times in the past, so everything progressed in an impeccable and orderly manner. Su Ming sat in a palace Yu family had built in Blackwater City after it became its owner. He sat at a spot from which he could see everything that was happening in the city. The 13 progenitors from the Yu family stood behind him respectfully. There was a jade slip placed in front of Su Ming. Lai Shan Kangju stood beside him respectfully. That respect came from the bottom of his heart while he waited for Su Ming's orders. Lai Shan Kangju had delivered the jade slip to Su Ming, and on it were the names of the prodigies from the forces of power from the 4 Great True Worlds. In fact, detailed descriptions of those who might possibly come to Black Ink Planet to participate in the auction were also recorded inside. Su Ming held onto the jade slip with a calm look on his face. Not a single change of expression could be detected on him, even if the very first name he saw on that jade slip was Yi Wang. Yi Wang, the person with the strongest potential over the course of numerous years in true Morning Dao world, because of which Morning Dao sect has placed an incredible amount of importance on him. He's known as the person who has the highest possibility of heading into plain Kalpa realm among the cultivators of his generation. He's also Hong Kong Zi's successor disciple, who is one of the grand sect elders in Morning Dao sect. Yi Wang had went with Dao Kong, a direct descent of Dao Chen, into the barren lands of Divine Essence. There is a high possibility that this person will come to Black Ink Planet. Dao Kong, a direct descendant of true Morning Dao world's Morning Dao sect. His potential in cultivation is incredibly shocking, and he can be considered to be among the top 10 in terms of creating his own force of power among the direct descendants of Morning Dao sect. This person is cautious in his actions, but is fierce and ambitious. Most of the cultivators he gathers to his side are strong, and he means to bring Yi Wang to his side. Yi Wang had come to the barren lands of Divine Essence because Dao Kong had manipulated things so that it would happen this way. Most of Dao Kong's followers cannot come to the barren lands of Divine Essence, which is why he is at his weakest when he is here. However, he is bound to still have powerful warriors protecting him, and if it wasn't because this person had only been walking down the path of cultivation for a short period of time, he would have become one of the top 3 direct descendants of Dao Chen who have reached Ascendant Realm. Before Yi Wang appeared, he was known as the person with the best potential in Morning Dao sect. This person will definitely come to Black Ink Planet. Su Ming scanned through all the names on the jade slip with his Artman. When he looked through all of them once, he placed his attention on Yi Wang and Dao Kong. After a long while, he placed his full concentration on information about Dao Kong. Dao Kong. A glint appeared in Su Ming's eyes before he retrieved his Artman. Then, he slowly narrowed his eyes. When he made his decision to search for the first god of berserkers in Divine Essence Star Ocean, Su Ming had already decided to search for his 3rd clone as soon as possible. He needed clone who could gather up his cultivation base so that his level of cultivation could begin to rise. In fact, Su Ming was confident that once he found that clone, his cultivation base would be able to rise abruptly. He would then be able to reach World Plane Realm from his awkward state of being stuck in Heaven Cultivation Realm. When his 3 clones cooperated with each other, There was even a possibility that he could have his clone, which focused on cultivation base, reach the middle stage of world plane realm. At that time, with Su Ming's true strength, he would be able to gain an upper hand against those in the later stage of world plane realm even without bringing out his Ikang clone. After all, the qi within the physical body of his clone, which practiced the art of swallowing hollow shadows whole, had already reached the later stage of world plane realm. Because of this, if his cultivation base reached the middle stage of world plane realm, he would have earned the right to enter Divine Essence Star Ocean. If everything goes smoothly, then with the treasure that is peace arrives when the elephant is here, I will have the power to protect myself even if I run into those in Lunar Kalpa realm. A freezing glare appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He chose Dao Kong because he harbored a grudge against Morning Dao sect, while the memory of Yi Wang's gaze filled with determination as he refused to admit defeat while he was in Wind Steam Tribe still remained in his mind. Su Ming looked at Lai Shan Kangju and said in a low voice, "Have all the manpower of Lai Shan family in Black Ink Planet keep close watch over Dao Kong. If he comes here, I want to know everything about it." Lai Shan Kangju's expression grew stern. Once he voiced his obedience, he bade his farewell and left. Once he left, Su Ming's orders spread through all the members of Black Ink Dao within all families in a discreet manner. An invisible net spread out in Black Ink Planet, and it was waiting for Dao Kong to arrive. At that moment, there were gigantic longships within the galaxy beyond Black Ink Planet. They were moving without any sound and were heading swiftly towards the auction. Judging by their speed, they would be able to enter Black Ink Planet's territory in a couple more breaths. Dao Kong sat on a big black chair while dressed in a sacred constellation robe. He had a wine cup in his hand, and while looking at the stars, he would occasionally take a sip from it. His expression was incredibly calm, and only a hint of a bright light occasionally shining in his eyes revealed his extraordinary bearing. He looked incredibly handsome, and the sacred constellation robe only served to make him look like a dragon amid people. There were 9 old men standing behind him quietly. These 9 old men all had their eyes shut, but there were shocking waves of power spreading out from within and around their bodies. "So you're saying that our prodigy Yi Wang left on his own?" Dao Kong smiled and released his grip around the wine cup. It plunged down towards the ground, but before it could crash down, a pearly white hand suddenly reached out from empty space and seized it. Appearing along with that hand was an incredibly alluring body, and it was followed by an incredibly beautiful and young married woman. That woman knelt down beside Dao Kong when she grabbed the wine cup, then she smiled coquettishly at him. "He left alone 3 days ago," a cold voice said coolly from the area in front of Dao Kong and that woman. An indistinct figure could be seen there. That person's face could not be seen clearly, but based on the form, it could be deduced that the person was a woman. "Very well. During the past 1,000-something years, he has constantly refused to become my follower. The time for our return is almost up. Then, since he can't become my follower, I won't allow any of my other family members to be able to take him in either. Let's have him run into an accident in Black Ink Planet," Dao Kong said softly and lifted his right hand to caress the coquettish woman's chin. "I will only ensure your safety and will not help you do that sort of thing," the indistinct person said flatly. There was a hint of derision in her voice and a lack of embarrassment for speaking in such a manner towards Dao Kong, showing her complete lack of respect towards him. The young man seemed to be used to the woman speaking to him in such a manner. He only smiled faintly and looked towards the spot where she was. "Do not forget that you are a member of the Phoenix sect and your progenitor gave you to me for a wife. Do not forget that Phoenix sect will only carry out the tradition when you reach Plain Kalpa realm," the woman stated flatly. There was a layer of distortions in the place where she was, and she no longer bothered herself with Dao Kong, turning around to leave. A chuckle escaped Dao Kong's lips. He held the chin of the woman beside him and looked at her beautiful face, especially her pointy ears, then gently pinched them. The woman winced in pain, but she did not dare to show a single hint of it. As Dao Kong increased the strength of his pinch, tears fell from the woman's eyes. "You came from the Phoenix sect as well. Have you ever met their sacred lady by phone?" he asked in a light tone. The woman bit her bottom lip and shook her head. "Understandable. When you betrayed the Phoenix sect, Bai Feng had participated in the secret plan, so it's only natural that you didn't see her." Dao Kong smiled faintly. "I have never met her before, either. There are 2 sacred ladies in Phoenix sect. One of them is Bai Feng, and the other is my wife, Xu Hui. It's a pity that Xu Hui constantly has her face hidden, but sooner or later, I will be able to see her. The ancient inheritance from Phoenix sect will also belong to me. Dao Kong released the woman's ears and suddenly slapped her, sending her 100-something feet away. Get lost. The woman lowered her head, and her body slowly disappeared into the distance. The area immediately fell silent. The expressions of the 9 old men behind Dao Kong remained as impassive as ever. In fact, they did not even open their eyes, as if they were already used to Dao Kong's temperamental actions. Yi Wang, since you don't know how to appreciate what is good for you, then, don't blame me for being ruthless. Dao Kong's expression became freezing cold, and he closed his eyes. I will complete the progenitor's request in Black Ink Auction, which is to obtain enough resources by offering a spot to head to True Morning Dao World. Once I do this, it'll be fine even if Yi Wang dies.